Welcome to our SNHU career presentation on stress management. Your experience here at Southern New Hampshire University is important to us. It's our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible learning environment. If there are aspects of this presentation that presents any barriers to accessibility, please notify our online accessibility center as soon as possible at 866-305-9430. You can also email them at oac@snhu.edu. This video includes closed caption for the hearing impaired. Simply click the CC logo at the bottom of the video as shown here. Our career team is here to help you. If you have any questions regarding today's presentation, drop in on the Lunch Bunch live every Friday at noon Eastern and at noon Pacific for an open QA session. Simply type your question into the chat box and it will be answered by a team member on the spot. If you need more immediate assistance, please feel free to reach out to our dedicated team of career advisors to schedule a one-on-one career consultation. Our team can assist you with everything from your resume, cover letter, mock interviews to the job search itself. Call or email us today by clicking the link below. Hi everyone, my name is Tori Chartrand.
And I'm Nicole Martin.
And we are career advisors here at SNHU, as well as certified yoga instructors and wellness gurus with a combined 13 years of experience in the industry. And we are very happy that you have decided to learn about today's topic on stress management. So today, here are some learning objectives that we're going to go through. Our main objective is to help you learn how to achieve a healthy work-life balance throughout your career search. Other topics that we will cover include the common stressors that arise as we are going through this process of looking for a job, figuring out what stressors we can change and which ones are out of our control, time management throughout this process, as well as some examples of how to de-stress.
All right. So one of the first things you need to remember is that you're not alone. Job searching is stressful. Life can be stressful even not throwing a job search into the mix. So have you ever asked yourself, what are some of the biggest stressors when it comes to your job search? Because they don't have to be directly related to your job search. All the other factors come in as we're trying to achieve that work-life balance. So we've listed a few of them here and see if, do some critical inquiry into your own thoughts as we read them and think if it's something that you struggle with and maybe make a little note of it as we go through the presentation. So first one we have is financial issues. So oftentimes when we're job searching, part of that goal is maybe we want to make more money or maybe we want more time so that we can actually spend our money on our family. And so the next one is unhappiness at your current job. So oftentimes, same thing. When we're going to college, we want a degree, we want that better life, we want that job that's a better fit for our skills, interests, and values. That can be very frustrating and stressful. Not having experience in your field. Raise your hand if you've tried to search for a job and you get turned down and they tell you it's because you're lacking experience. That can be very stressful, very frustrating. Family obligations. Some of us have children, some of us have spouses, maybe we have friends or even elderly family members that we're caring for. And, there's house cleaning, there's keeping up on many things in life for our family and our home. And so that can be frustrating sometimes when we're trying to squeeze in that time for job searching. Schoolwork. We all love Southern New Hampshire University, but we all know that college is a lot of work. And so that can definitely add to our stress caseload. And then finding time for fun and relaxation. We don't want life to be all work. Work is an important part of us. We spend a lot of our lives there. But we need to make sure that we're still finding time for ourselves. And when you can't find that, there's definitely an imbalance. And that can be a source of stress for us.
Be sure to highlight that one, guys.
And what else? Maybe there's something that's not on this list that's stressing you out. Maybe make a little note of that on that paper that I had you pull out, just so that we can focus on it as we move forward through the webinar. So before we start talking about ways that we manage stress, it's always good to know the why. So what is stress? Stress is your body's way of responding to any kind of demand or threat. And so sometimes we think, oh, I don't understand why I'm stressed out. What is this? And our body actually reacts to stress in the same way it reacts to danger. So when you sense danger, whether it's real or imagined, the body's defenses kick into high gear and a rapid automatic response known as the fight or flight reaction or the stress response. So, for example, if you had a dinosaur chasing you, that would be really scary and
Probably
stressful.
want to run.
And I'm sure that's not what's happening. You're just searching for a job, and maybe you're trying to do the laundry while your kid's yanking on you, and all you want to do is get to the gym or work on your schoolwork. But our body doesn't know the difference. So the stress response is the body's way of protecting you, and it can help you meet challenges. So the fight or flight response is called that for a reason. So if you really did have to run for your life, all the hormones and energy in your body would actually ramp up so that you had the ability to do that. But the problem is, most of the time, we're not running for our life. Instead, we're just facing a challenge like the list that we listed before. So at that point, stress stops being helpful and it starts causing some major damage to your health, your mood, your productivity, your relationships, and your overall quality of life. So then there comes that point where you ask yourself, is the stress useful to me at this point, or is it something that is not? Is this something I can change, or should I accept that I cannot? So according to Psychology Today, acceptance works to reduce stress because it helps you manage your emotions. The true source of stress in your life is not whatever particular thing you think is stressing you out, it's the emotion that's stirring in you. So all of our emotions start off as a thought. So if you're telling yourself, perhaps to bring the example that we spoke about earlier, that you're not getting a job because you lack in-field experience, if you've created a thought in your mind that says, I'm never going to get a job with my college degree because I can't get it, I don't have experience and I'm never going to get hired. That's an erroneous thought, but it's creating an emotion that's creating a behavior. So what's the behavior that's happening from that stress? So if you're telling yourself that you're never going to get a job because you don't have experience, and that's stressful to you, so it's creating the emotion, how do you react to the stress? Is the behavior that maybe you stop your job search because you feel that it's a waste of time? Or maybe you are a little short when talking to your spouse or child because you're frustrated. Maybe you're not doing the things you enjoy anymore because you don't have that motivation to get into the hobbies you used to, whether that be reading or doing something physical outside. So it's important to recognize and accept whether that thought is something you can change or whether you can't, and whether a different behavior would be better warranted. One thing to also keep in mind is here's what acceptance is not: ignoring an emotion or burying your head in the sand or being a doormat. Acceptance does not mean that you have to stop trying to change things the way they are. Acceptance is not passivity, it's perspective. So, what can I do something about? What can I work to change? Poor time management is a major source of stress. How can you manage your time in a realistic way to make time for all of your obligations? Having a schedule helps to achieve work-life balance. So let's just say we gave that example before. You're stressed out because you're lacking in field experience, maybe you stop your job search. Or maybe you feel that you don't have time, because you are balancing your family obligations. What if you set aside and motivated yourself and you said, you know what? There is the right job out there for me. Someone is willing to hire me with my college degree with that experience. Or maybe I can find ways to get more experience and I need to invest time into that. Creating a schedule can be tremendous towards that. And as you can see, that's something you can choose to do something about. You can't change the fact that you lack experience, but you can work to get more experience or change your perspective on the situation. Lack of in-field experience can be frustrating. Can you volunteer, internship, part-time, or entry-level opportunities which would allow you to gain experience? So that's going back to what we just talked about. There is something you can do about that. Volunteering, internship, part-time, those are all great ways that people enter the career field. And maybe that's not your source of stress, but we're using that as an example, and it does happen to be a large source of stress for someone else. But maybe your source of stress is financial. And I know we talked about that before. And so let's just say it's both. You can't find a job with your degree, and you're also having financial stressors. What can you do something about? Well, you can't change anything about the fact that you don't have money at the moment. But you can make steps towards doing that. So maybe you're looking down the road and saying, eventually I'm going to be able to find a job with this degree. Changing your perspective. What can I do about it? Start making the steps for applying for jobs. Or maybe sometimes it's about taking that interim role where this isn't my favorite job, but it's going to help me better financially while I find that perfect fit. So, really, is there something you can change that is stressing you out? Maybe it's time to reframe your thinking. So, let's look at that list that you talked about before. Maybe make some notes beside the stressors in your life and ask yourself, which of these can I do something about, and which of these can I change my perspective on? How can you change your perspective about your current situation?
So I'll share an example here because Nicole and I were talking about this as we were going through what we wanted to share with you guys today in this webinar. This is something that I noticed that I used to stress out about, and it was something I could control. So I decided to change my perspective. And the example is that I started noticing that the only time I was really somewhat stressing about money was when I was actually looking at my bank account when I got paid, right? So I look at my bank account and I look at all the bills I have to pay, right? So those couple days or that, couple hours I'm paying my bills, I'm like, oh wow, I'm all of a sudden stressed out. But then in those 2 weeks where I'm, in the lag time of being paid, I'm not thinking about it. I'm living my life, I'm staying on budget, and I'm doing what I need to do. So what I noticed is that I was creating that stress in my head, only around the time when I was getting paid, when I really didn't need to. So the way I looked at it and wanted to change my perspective is say, I'm actually going to be grateful for the chance to be able to have money coming in and have a paycheck so I can pay my bills and live the life that I want to live. So just something that I noticed and just a way to help you maybe try to change your perspective of certain things that you feel that you can't control, but you actually can. All right, so let's talk about some time management throughout our career search. Do you ever ask yourself these questions we have listed here? We believe that they are crucial to helping you with your time management and your stress level throughout this process. Therefore, let's ask ourselves now, what are you doing for yourself? Think about this. Do you still make time in your day-to-day to do the things you truly love to do? Of course, this looks very different for everyone, but what's important to note here is that you make the time no matter what. Otherwise, you're going to create a sense of frustration and negativity throughout this process, making it absolutely no fun. Looking for your career should be an exciting and motivating time, right? This is your chance to finally get into a position that you're passionate about. So we want you to be able to dive into the field, and so in order to do so, why start the process off on a negative note? We don't want to do that. If you're not feeling these emotions while you're looking for a job, then maybe this is a question you need to start asking yourself. How often or not so often are you looking and applying for jobs? This is huge, and normally I can tell by the vibe of my students' tone, of how stressed out they are, how frustrated they are, how often they're looking for a job. If your answer is every day, you might want to rethink your strategy. When you are dedicating every single day to this process, you automatically take away time for yourself. You will create redundancy, frustration, anxiety, and so much unneeded stress. We will go into our recommendations soon on what we think is the best strategy for this, however.
We all need time for us.
We all need time for us.
Yes.
Next question that we want you guys to ask is, how organized are you? Are you applying for multiple jobs each week and not keeping track of anything? Are you forgetting details, contact information, when you're supposed to follow up? What we recommend to help you stay organized throughout this process is to create a spreadsheet to keep track of all these details. An Excel spreadsheet works great, or even a Word document, but again, whatever works for you. But with the following details is what we recommend: the company name, the job title, the link to the job description, the date that you applied, a date that you plan on following up with the employer, or maybe the last time you followed up, any contact information you have, the status of where you're at. So maybe you're on your first your first follow-up, maybe you have a phone interview, maybe you got rejected, whatever the case may be. And of course, you can keep track of anything else you feel the need to as well. These are just our most professional recommendations. So the recommendations that we offer are what works best for most of our students, but you might have to play around with the amount of days you dedicate to this process to see what works best for you. So this is what we recommend when looking for a job. We recommend dedicating 3 days to the job search. 1 day we would recommend dedicating to just looking for jobs and flagging the ones that you find interesting. Another day to dedicate to tailoring your resume and your cover letter to each specific job description as well as applying. And then another day dedicated to just following up with the employers that you've applied with. So this is really crucial. And again, you might have to play around with it to figure out what works for you. Maybe you like to just work on this a couple days with longer hours, or maybe you do need 3 or 4 days. That's okay. We just want to make sure that you're not doing this every single day and continuing to pile on that unneeded stress. All right, so now that we've gone over different ways to stay organized under the stress of looking for a job, let's now talk about practices we can put in place to help us de-stress.
Ooh, my favorite part.
Yes, so first one, we've got breathing exercises. And as yoga instructors, this is something that's near and dear to Nicole and I's heart because we know how powerful the breath can be.
And it's actually scientifically proven as well. They've done studies on the human brain when people are practicing yoga, and more so the breathing exercises that go with it. And it actually changes the wavelengths in your brain. So,
just actually, this is kind of ironic. The other night before I was going to bed, I felt really stressed. I felt really emotional, and I couldn't really figure out why. It's life, right? So instead of giving into my emotions and the stress and letting it take over my head, I did 5 minutes of a breathing exercise, and all of a sudden I was a completely different person. I felt more joy. I just felt so much better, and the stress was literally just leaving my body. And then I was able to get a good night's sleep. So I don't know about you, but breathing sounds pretty easy to me and something I would like to implement if I was pretty stressed out. So, like we said, breathing is one of the quickest and easiest ways to help us de-stress, feel a little more calm, a little bit more like us, and bring a positive light back into our thoughts. It could be as simple as taking in 3 really long, really deep breaths. But we're going to share some examples and some videos in the notes. That way you guys can take it home with you and take a peek at some things you might want to practice. Next, we've got connecting with family and friends. So this is really big because this is your support system, right? Just because you're looking for a job doesn't mean you should take time away that you normally would spend with your loved ones. Spending this quality time is not only good for our health, but it's something that most of us enjoy, right? So why take it away? This doesn't mean you have to spend time with everyone every single day, but you still should carve out time to help you manage your stress levels and live your life the way you want to live it. All right, this is one of my favorites. So physical activity, moving the body, guys. And I'm not saying that you have to go out there and run, 6 miles every single day. You could get out there and walk. You could get up and stretch. It doesn't matter. Moving the body in a way that feels good to you is another proven effective tool to help manage stress. There is scientific fact that walking is one of the most beneficial exercises we can do for our mind, our body, and our soul. So imagine if you're looking up jobs for a few hours and you just need a break. You go out for a half-hour walk in a calming environment with nature around you, and then you get back to it. You're going to feel so much more motivated and will increase your energy levels to help you get through the rest of your day in the right way. I mean, why wouldn't you want to try that?
Something else to remember on that note as well. So remember we were talking about the fight or flight response earlier because that's what stress is. So you actually trick your body. Your body doesn't know the difference if you're running from that dinosaur that's chasing after you or if you're just doing a physical activity because you want to. To our body, it's the end of stress. It's the completion of it. So benefits in numerous ways for physical activity.
Absolutely. So just to end on that one, physical activity looks very different for everyone. And I definitely want to highlight that for you guys because I feel this, especially with social media these days and all the hype around different ways to exercise and move your body, you have to figure out what works for you. Like we said, walking, yoga, stretching, Maybe, and then there's going to be other people that love to run, lift weights, practice high intensity interval training. It doesn't matter. Therefore, it's important to do what your body wants and then enjoy the benefits. All right, so this next one we have is journaling. So this might sound a little cliche, guys, but it can work for some of you. I personally journal almost every single day, and it helps me de-stress tremendously. Sometimes I literally have no idea what I'm even writing. I just get it out. I bring out my journal, I take my pen, and I just let my words go crazy. Sometimes I read it over, sometimes I don't, but what I do know is that every time I finish a journal entry, I feel better. And this is another form of release to help us recognize what's going on in our lives and make a little bit more sense of it. So don't knock it till you try it.
I know that I carry mine with me everywhere I go.
Everywhere. It's in my backpack. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need my journal right now. All right, so eating and sleeping well. I know we've all heard this one, right? Well, there's a reason for that, though. When you're eating clean foods that nourish us, it gives us energy and it helps clear our heads. And then we are inevitably going to be less stressed than if we were to eat foods that make us feel bloated, fatigued, brain fog, etc. Normally, we've all been taught to get at least 8 hours of sleep, right? But there's actually data now that shows that it's not necessarily how much you sleep that matters, but how well you sleep. So think about that, how well you sleep, not how long. Some people feel great just after about 7 hours of sleep, while others do need that 8 to 10. But that's totally fine. You know, again, what works for you? I know that for me, I need like 6.5 to 7 hours of sleep and I'm good to go. Anything more than that, like if I sleep up to 8 or 9 hours, I actually feel more tired throughout my day, and I don't really like that. Nicole, what about you? How many hours do you need to sleep?
Yeah, I actually sleep like 5 to 6.
Yeah.
So a little bit less for me. It's
Crazy.
the same thing. If I sleep longer, I feel groggy the next day.
Yeah. So what's important is that you figure out what works for you and ensure that you are getting into a deep sleep each night to help you refresh for the day to come. And we'll put a link in here if you guys want to read a little bit more about that. So eating well, sleeping well, they go hand in hand, and they are very crucial to our health and helping us de-stress. Water. All right, this might be the number one recommendation on our list. Water is crucial, guys, crucial for our health. It's such a simple addition to our daily life. It's recommended that we all drink at least 64 ounces of water every day in order for us to feel our optimal selves. Now, one thing that helps me drink a ton of water each day is having an actual water bottle, like a nice water bottle that I can take around with me everywhere. I actually have one that has sentimental value to me. So, when I don't have that water bottle with me, I'm not drinking as much water. And when I'm not drinking as much water, I notice that I am more irritable. I don't have a lot of energy. I can't focus very well. I'm not as productive. Water is life, guys. So, my recommendation is when you get up, drink at least 8 ounces of water right away. I would recommend usually going like room temperature because ice cold can kind of shock our system. But that's something that I do pretty much like in my sleep. I wake up and I grab my water bottle, and it literally helps wake me up and get my system moving as soon as possible.
We have to remember our bodies are partly water.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about a lot of mental stressors on the list, but your body can be physically stressed out as well. So when your body's not getting it, just like Tori was talking about earlier, the proper food, the proper sleep, water, all of these things can physically stress our body in a way that we can't understand mentally, but it is stress for our body. So something to understand.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, so this next one, positive self-talk. You might be questioning this. You're like, this one sounds a little different, huh? But this is something that's super important, not only in this process, but in life, truly. Have you ever been mindful of the things that you normally say to yourself? Are they positive, negative? Do you even say anything? With positive self-talk, we can change our mood in a matter of seconds. And it's as simple as saying to ourselves, great job today. You found 3 really interesting jobs to apply to and worked super hard to tailor your documents and to submit everything. That's it. Easy, right? So if you're kind of questioning this and you're like, what is she talking about? Maybe take these next couple days or even next few hours to be a little bit more mindful about the things that you do say to yourself. And don't judge how they are, what they are, if they're positive or negative, but just recognize them. And then maybe take your journal out or a piece of paper and just say, okay, I noticed that I do say things to myself and they're pretty negative and I didn't really notice that. And then maybe try to change your perspective. Instead of, when you wake up in the morning, instead of, Just, oh man, I gotta get up again. I don't want to. I'm so tired. Even if you're tired, maybe you just try to change your wording a little bit. All right, you know what? I'm a little tired because I was up late last night, but it was for a good reason. I'm gonna get up and have an energetic day. It's gonna be awesome, right? Even if you don't want to say it, but you do say it, it's literally helping to reprogram our brain to think more positive thoughts about ourselves, our day, and then you're just going to be interacting with other people that want to be around that your vibe, right? So when you're living your best life, then you're going to absolutely attract others that are going to want to do the same thing, right? You're going to bring a negative environment into a positive environment no matter what. So this is something that's really powerful, and it might just take some time to notice and be aware of. Something that I used to do, or sometimes I do, is I'll put little post-its around my house of little encouraging quotes or motivational sayings, so that way I can just read them. And even if you don't want to believe in them, it's hard to read them and look at them and not smile. So that's all of a sudden changing my mood into something positive, right? So it's interesting.
Something to remember when you're job searching as well.
Yes.
Employers notice that. If you show up to a job interview and you have that negative self-talk going on, that comes across to employers. It shows in your face, it shows in your vibes, as Tori was talking about.
Yeah.
So positive self-talk has tremendous benefits.
And I think in regards to the job search, let's talk about interviews, right? Interviews are super emotionally, physically, just draining, and they're tiring. They take a lot out of us. So, I always tell my students that you're probably going to have some really great interviews. You're going to have some okay interviews, and you might even have some off interviews. And that's okay, because we're human beings. We're not meant to be perfect. But I think what's important is that you say to yourself, okay, that might have been an off interview, but what did I learn from it? Right? So keeping that positive self-talk, like, okay, even though that was an off interview, I'm still really proud of you for going. I'm still really proud of you for preparing, right? And to me, that just means that maybe that job wasn't meant to be for you. So continuing to really help, just motivate yourself, especially throughout the interview process, because, the more you go on, the more it's going to, take out of you, but you're eventually going to find that job that's a good fit. It's just, you're not going to get every single job you interview for, right? So it's important to be realistic. All right, and the last thing we have on this list are hobbies. So do you have any hobbies? A hobby can be something that you get involved in that brings you joy, makes you feel more like you, helps you connect to either yourself or to others. It can include anything from reading to sewing to sports to community groups. Something that's kind of interesting that Nicole and I have talked about in the past is doing things that we used to love to do as kids, right? And my question is why did we ever stop, right? Like, if you used to like playing soccer, let's say, and now you're older and you don't play, have you ever asked yourself why you stopped, right? Like, is it time? Is it money? Is it what? Because I'm pretty sure if you have a soccer ball and some grass, you can still play. So if that's something that used to bring you joy and you still think it might, maybe you try it, right? And that's something I've started to incorporate lately is certain things that I enjoyed growing up, and they still bring me joy. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to keep doing them. Why not?
One that Tori and I were sharing when we were revisiting our childhood hobbies, and one that was fun for me, and I definitely recommend trying it, is jumping in mud puddles.
Yep.
Again, make sure you're not wearing your office finest.
Or don't do it before an interview.
Right, don't do it before an interview. But yeah, have some fun with this one. And it's what's important is that you need to carve out time for it. Make time for you.
And if you are someone that needs, to schedule things in your calendar, this might sound crazy, but schedule the time in your calendar. Put a half hour on the calendar, like, okay, me time. Whatever it is that you're feeling, maybe it's to move your body, maybe it's to just go do a hobby or to go connect with someone you haven't connected with in a while, schedule it in your calendar every single day. And then hopefully that'll be something you start to respect for yourself and just continue to do over and over again so that you make it a priority over everything else. All right, so now we are ready for questions, guys. So any questions, concerns, thoughts, please let us know. We'd be happy to talk about it. Like I said, Nicole and I have a lot of experience in this industry. This is a true passion for us, and we're here to help support you guys no matter what.
And so you can actually join us at the Lunch Bunch. So during the lunch hour, we're going to be addressing any questions you can have. And so that's going to be Fridays at 12 p.m. So we'd be happy to discuss any of your questions, or maybe you just want to chat with us about what your favorite hobbies are and what you do to de-stress.
Thanks so much for listening today, guys, and we look forward to talking with you soon.